Welcome to Lawyer Business Advantage.
A lot of law firm owners assume that if they're overwhelmed, the answer is simple. They have too much work.
But more cases doesn't automatically mean a healthier firm.
No, in fact, for many small law firms, taking on too many cases is the reason everything feels chaotic.
Yeah, deadlines pile up, quality slips, stress goes way up, and profit doesn't improve the way that you might expect it to.
So, in this episode, we're breaking down how to recognize when your firm has crossed the line from productive to overloaded and what to do instead of just pushing harder.
Welcome to Lawyer Boss Life, the podcast where law firm owners learn to build profitable businesses and lead lives they love. I'm Ale, founder of Law Firm Success Group, and I've helped hundreds of attorneys scale their firms, gain freedom, and take back their time.
And I'm Chelsea Pagan, law firm owner, entrepreneur, and toddler mom. I know it's possible to have excellent income, work 40 hours a week or less, and still take time off because that's what I do. So, talking about how to balance case overload, chaotic internal systems, and the energy within your firm, and figuring out how to make all that profitable is a really delicate balance.
Yeah, it really is. And it's one of those things where, in some ways, you're sometimes a victim of your own success. I mean, you start bringing in clients and you're super excited that you're doing that. And then you just bring in more clients and more clients and more clients. And then the happiness kind of turns into panic up until the point where you might sign on a client and you should be really happy, but you're not. You're actually really, really bummed out because you know that you've just signed yourself up for a ton of work that you don't really have the time to do. And it just stresses you out and you don't have a chance to celebrate. And that's a great sign that your firm is overwhelmed. And unfortunately, when I'm working with clients, Chelsea, I see this a lot, they're already in that state, when we start working together. So we're having to fix that. It's really better if you can see those signs coming and kind of head them off.
Yeah. And when we talk about, oh, I need more cases so I can make more profit. But if you are working at your full capacity, if your associates are working at their full capacity, then getting more clients requires you and your associates to work more to one, be able to handle that case, and two, make more profit. So a lot of people just have to figure out where the bottleneck in their firm is in order to maximize those profits. So, I want to kind of brainstorm with you. We've talked about this between you and I, both about my firm, other firms, but really the warning signs that your law firm is carrying too much work.
Yeah, that's a great one. So one of the warning signs, and we talked about this a little bit in the intro, is you start to see little cracks forming in how the firm runs. The firm may be running very smoothly for a while, and then with the additional workload, you're starting to see the firm slipping up a bit. Maybe billings aren't being done as well as they were before, mistakes are being made there, or the bills aren't going out on time. Clients who owe the firm money in the past, maybe you or your team are following up with them promptly. Now, those bills that are owed to you are starting to pile up because the follow up isn't as diligent as it used to be. Or you start to see this in your team where they are looking stressed. They're dropping the ball here and there, not very often, but they are. And they're just not nearly having as much fun as they used to. And neither are you. That's a good sign that this issue we're dealing with law firm growth, it's always balancing the capacity in your firm with the demand for your work, and you want those two things to be in lockstep. It's a great sign that these are great signs that the demand for your services is exceeding the capacity that you have in your firm.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And taking a look at what your ultimate goals are with profitability. Do you just want to make more money? Are you trying to expand? Not all of those things have the same solution to get you to where you want to be. For example, in my firm, I'm always looking to say, okay, we have a high demand for our services. I want to be able to help more people. So I need to bring on more staff in order to take on more caseload. That is going to lead to profitability, but it's also going to lead to overhead cost in payroll, malpractice insurance, computers, all of these things. So for me, it's figuring out, okay, well, what is that extra profit doing for my firm? Am I going to get more locations? Am I going to pay myself more, pay my staff more? Whatever your decision is, all of these things make a difference when you're trying to figure out, is it caseload that I need more of? Is it employees that I need more of? Or is it just better delegation and a combination of all of these things? And so a lot of the time I would imagine, especially, working with some of your clients and me talking to my colleagues, is there's a disconnect between, oh, we're so busy, and all they're really experiencing is overwhelm, and the morale of their team seems to be feeling the same way, and then nobody really wants to be putting in that work. So how do you work with your clients to kind of manage, really, what is the goal, right? If you want to make more profit, but why? Because I mean, at least for me, that helps the decision tree, right?
It really does, and that's one of the conversations we often have, as we're starting to work together is, what do you actually want out of your firm? Because a lot of people want more money, but they don't just want more money. They also want to have a higher quality of life. I've even had clients come to me and say, "Look, Ale, I make plenty of money. I'm even fine making less money, but I really want to take a real vacation and I really want to work, no more than 50 hours a week." These are people who are burned out and exhausted, and they really are looking for different things out of their firm. Um, I would also kind of encourage you, if you're, watching this or listening to this, think about um, breaking some of the assumptions that you might have in your mind. One of the common things I kind of work through, and I do this a lot with solos actually, is they want to make more money and grow their firm, but they don't want to hire more people. And they think that they're locked into this idea of, well, if I want to grow my income, I have to hire more people. And I don't want to hire people because I'm a solo. I like things simple. So
Mhm.
this is a really interesting example, because as a solo attorney, there's other levers you can pull. One is you can bring on contractors. The other is you can bring on virtual teams. And the third one, which involves doing nothing differently, is you can increase your rate and keep increasing your rate until you start to see clients not be able to afford your services. Then that's a great sign that you can then focus your area of specialization to stay a solo, but to increase your expertise so that you can afford to justify a higher and higher and higher rate. And I've seen some solo attorneys do very well staying a solo, making a great amount of money and not working themselves to death. So there's lots of paths, but the key thing is really to figure out what it is that you want. And Chelsea, the one thing that I would say, if an attorney is trying to think through this, remove those assumptions, remove those barriers, and just accept and trust yourself to just think about what it is you actually want. If you could like wave a magic wand, this is what I want out of my firm. You can always change your mind later, but it's a great way to kind of get those juices flowing and having you start to think of these out of the box ideas.
When you said that, the solo attorney was like, oh, I don't need to make more money, or I just want to work 50 hours a week or less, and that like hurt my stomach, because that seems like so many hours a week to be working, because I'm not used to working that much right now, and that
You're
is,
making our audience mad.
I mean, and our team is the same way. I'm really a 40-hour a week or less kind of owner, with many hours invested kind of overseeing, the firm and brainstorming ideas, conversations, networking. But you're right in the sense that whatever the goal is, whatever you're trying to accomplish, whether you're a solo or a firm like mine, right? Partnership. I'm in a partnership, and then I have, 5 other attorneys working with me. It's, what are you trying to build and accomplish, and is there really a need between, or a need for your firm for more cases, right? Because with that comes more energy expended towards different people, right? More balls in the air as a business owner and a lawyer. And that works when you have multiple lawyers managing these caseloads. But if you're a solo, you can only take on so many cases without losing the quality, of work. And so some of the time, it's, in my mind, I'm always thinking about, okay, if I want to generate more capacity to take on cases, that is an employee problem, right? And a delegation problem. If I just want to be more profitable, that's another conversation about overhead expenses and increasing your hourly rate, which I know is Alay's favorite thing to talk about because it comes up, I think, almost in like 90% of our conversations in some way, which I understand. But it's really a conversation of your individual firm, your individual self as a lawyer. So when we're sitting here talking about it, it's not a one size fits all because that need
No.
really has to generate it. And it's finding different ways to think about the capacity that you have for your firm. So
Yeah.
interested to know from your perspective, seeing many different lawyers, many different partnerships and law firms, what are other ways besides just bringing on new employees or increasing your hourly rate? But how can some lawyers think about managing and better managing their capacity to take on more cases?
So this is where I think it's really interesting, right, Chelsea? Because, and you're a great example of this. You work 40 hours a week or less. You are making, by most standards, a really good income because you're here in the San Francisco Bay Area and you're doing very, very well. But most family law attorneys are not doing it that way. They're working a lot more hours than you and they're not making as much money as you are. And one of the reasons for that is that you decided early on that this is what you wanted to have in a law firm. You wanted to earn a really good income, but you did not want to sacrifice your quality of life in doing that. And you wanted to make sure the law firm served you and not the other way around. So
Mhm.
you invested in the firm business, you invested in building your skills outside of practicing law so you could, as you scaled your firm, not work yourself crazy hours. And that's borne fruit. And I think that's one thing that really separates law firm owners like you from most attorneys who happen to own a law firm, because you're absolutely right. There's so many different levers that they can pull. We talked about increasing the hourly rate, and I love it because it's super low hanging fruit. It's a challenging decision, but it almost always works out really, really well for the lawyer.
Mhm.
um, we've talked a lot about hiring on this show. So that is obviously a lever, whether you're looking at hiring permanent full-time employees or whether you're doing contractors or whether you're doing part-time employees or whether you're even outsourcing chunks of your firm to vendors, things like payroll and HR and accounting. Um, the other thing we haven't talked too much about on the show is automation. So there are a lot of opportunities if you have practice management software now to automate a lot of the tasks that are being done manually by you and your staff. And that automation will enable your staff to increase their productivity, will help you to increase your productivity so that you can handle more cases. So it's kind of a neat little hack. Like you can increase the capacity of your firm without hiring more people or investing in more resources. You simply use the automation capabilities that are already built into the practice management software that you're already paying for. And so, one of the other low hanging fruit things I would suggest is, if you're not using all the capabilities of your practice management software, reaching out to them and saying, hey, here's some of my big problems that I'm dealing with. How can your software help me solve those problems? You might be really impressed at what that software can do for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And what's interesting too is if your software that you're using can't quite do what you want them to do, you should email them because I can tell you if you're having the problem, another 100 attorneys are having the same problem, and eventually some of these software programming are going to catch up to those needs, but they don't know, right? They're constantly adapting based on feedback. We've done this with Clio. I've talked about Clio a lot. We use all of the Clio services. They're always expanding services. But even there's a couple little functionalities that we even our firm has have discovered that would make a lot of these systems and automation pathways that we have in our firm so much more useful and better for the client experience as well, reducing costs, making things more efficient. We actually just shoot them an email. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, or sometimes they it takes a while, but something catches up. But don't be afraid to reach out on those particular issues to the software you use and get the training from them because we've gotten some really good training from Clio and realized we were not using the software to capacity until we were trained. But I 100% agree. If you're investing time in software and these programs that are supposed to make your life easier, make sure you're using it. If you're spending, like, some of these software programs are very expensive, and if they have the functionality, make them work for you, because the more you can automate admin stuff, it also is going to free up time to figure out automation of some specific casework, so that you are only spending your time really doing what the lawyer needs to do, the lawyering, right? The legal analysis that these cases need, and running the business. You're not dealing with all the other things that a associate, paralegal, or admin can do, right?
Yeah, and here's the fun. Here's another fun tip that you can think about. Would you actually believe that your marketing can impact and actually increase your capacity to take on cases? How weird is that? Your marketing, so the message you're putting out into the world, can actually increase your capacity, which is kind of a weird, mind blowing thing. And here's
Mhm.
how this works. This actually goes right along with Chelsea's, you said, one of my favorite topics, raising your rate. Oftentimes, we see firms that are charging lower rates. They have a lot of clients, but they're very, very many and disparate clients. A lot of smaller clients with small work. So they end up having to onboard a lot of those clients. They're constantly onboarding and offboarding these small clients. And then also the attorney is having to switch from one client file to another, to another, to another, many, many times throughout the day. As opposed to, right, that's the situation. Now think about a different situation. Charging a higher rate, have fewer clients, but your matters with those clients are more repeatable, so they're more ongoing. You're bringing on fewer clients, you're offboarding fewer clients.
Mhm.
The matters are more complex, and you're able to make as much or more by serving the select few clients that are a great fit for what it is that you do. It's a really interesting way where you can actually increase the productivity of your firm, because now you're not switching between one client to another as many times. You can
Mhm.
get involved in really sophisticated work that challenges you as an attorney, and you can really focus on delighting a happy few clients that are privileged enough to have your services. It's kind of a neat relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to highlight this and kind of bounce off what we've been talking about, raising your rates, because it is directly related really to capacity and profitability, is we raised our rates for new clients this year, but we chose to raise our rates for full representation litigation cases because those take on higher bandwidth, right? They're more demanding, they're a little bit more stressful. And we kept our rates in places for things that are less stressful, more manageable, mediation, prenups, postnups, and we have not gotten one bit of pushback because we know that we're hiring a rate, we hired our rates, we're being selective about cases. So the people that are choosing us, agreeing to pay that rate, are getting the quality of service and attention that they deserve, because we don't have to take on 5 cases to their one at lower rates to make up for our profitability. So that's exactly the translation of the example I think we talk about when we talk about capacity and profitability. So, if you want help figuring out the right caseload for your firm and building a system that supports growth without overload, you can book a strategy call on our website, lawfirmsuccessgroup.com. If this episode sparked new ideas, please like, subscribe, and share it with a lawyer who might need it. We love hearing how you're building your lawyer boss life.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.